Thanks for joining us today for the RiskTech100 Ranking and Analysis event. I'm Maryam Akram and I'm a research principal at Chartis. I focus on financial risk, quantitative methods and machine learning. Today we will be discussing the changing requirements that financial institutions see in their vendor demands. Managed services are increasingly popular for institutions as a way to outsource business processes to third-party providers. For certain market segments like CECL compliance and ALM, for small banks, a vendor generally needs to offer some level of managed services. Managed services is an omnibus term that in practice refers to a number of different business and service models. For vendors, managed services can be an attractive potential offering because the vendor models can support long duration licenses. Today, I'm joined by two speakers, Bobby Thomas and Minor Huffman. Bobby, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Maryam. Thanks for the lovely kickoff. Hi, everyone. My name is Bobby Thomas. I work with Prudential. I head governance and analytics for global technology operations. Have been with Prudential for close to 14 years now, 15 years. My core role has always been into risk management and analytics, and the current role is also managing a large technology vendor, who's a managed service provider as well. So in a nutshell, will be great talking to you all. I come from the financial services industry. I'm based out of Singapore. Over to you, Minor.
Thank you. So my name is Minor Huffman. So I'm a technology leader with extensive experience in capital markets with a focus on electronic trading, risk management, and fund management. My expertise is really designing, developing new software products around increasing revenue, improving efficiency, and reducing operational risk, all in financial services. I was most recently the Chief Technology Officer at Instinet, which is a global institutional equities broker. Prior to Instinet, I was Managing Director at Citgo Group, and I led development and application support teams. I've also held roles at Credit Suisse, Chief Technology Officer at FXall and JP Morgan. I have an MBA in International Business from the NYU Stern School of Business and a Bachelor of Science in Computer Science from MIT. And I kind of look forward to talk to you guys about managed service.
Brilliant. Thanks so much, both. So the first question to kick us off is, what is the definition of managed services? What is the boundary between managed services, software as a service, and business process outsourcing? And what point does the services shift to managed services?
Okay, I think I'll go ahead with that one. Maryam, thanks for the question. So typically managed service are tasks that are handled by a third party, which is primarily these are IT technology, information technology services that are outsourced. They work in a way where the organization offloads their general tasks in order for them to reduce the costs and improve service quality across the organization. And the internal teams can then focus on the core of their business. Generally, in a managed service environment, the managed service provider retains the responsibility of the functionality of the IT service and equipment. And generally, and the customer pays a monthly fee, or a retainer for the receipt of the service. And this is a general scenario, and there could be scenarios where an infra is outsourced. There are parts of the applications that are outsourced. So the managed service provider takes on all these tasks from the organization, and then they run it. And this could be run from the premise of the organization, or they could have their own centers. We also run we also have a typical arrangement of a managed service provider where we've outsourced large part of our technology infra to a big technology service provider, and they manage parts of our technology estate across all of Asia and Africa. Minor, would you want to add on?
Yeah, sure. So I think when we look at the different methods of outsourcing, software as a service, a lot of us started with that. That becomes, the selection of a software product, and then the way that software is delivered to us. Previously, we would get the software, install it on equipment, and fire it up. So typically, software as a service includes both the underlying software licenses and the infrastructure to run it. It may include some upgrade services and the like. And it generally becomes a pay-as-you-go model. So typically you pay a subscription fee, for that service. And then I think with business process outsourcing and managed service, the difference is with the managed service, we really look at it as an IT service. That could be your desktop, that could be infrastructure, that could be software plus the operational aspects of running, the software tools. Whereas a business process can encompass things. It may use or utilize technology, but typically the technology isn't the primary aspect of the service. So if you could think of a managed CFO function or a managed HR recruiting function, those tend to be more of a business process. As opposed to, again, a managed service, which we typically look at as a technology driven operation. And then when I think about those things, it's really around how does the pricing work, how does the service level work, and what happens when when inevitably when the organization changes, how does the service grow with you?
Brilliant. Thanks for that.
I just want to add on to an aspect what Miner spoke about, and then one of the key aspect is also to benefit from the pricing, because you kind of fix it at times. For example, there could be agreements or contracts that run for 5, 6 years, and you fix the pricing year on year, year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4. So in this way, the best is that they get the benefit of a long-term pricing. And in an effective managed service relationship, a customer benefits from the predictable pricing and the ability to focus on their core strengths. So just wanted to add on this factor that while the organization can focus on their core, but definitely cost is a key advantage also here.
Mm-hmm.
That makes a lot of sense. Thank you, and thanks for that context in the definitions. My second question is, are there organizational conflicts within institutions as they seek to operate with managed services? And what are the key internal issues at stake, particularly in instances that might involve confidential information? Bobby, over to you. Oh, Miner, over to you, sorry.
Okay, thanks, Maryam. Well, I think one of the conflicts that happens is, typically in large organizations, the functions are split across groups and departments. So one group's outsourcing of a function can be another group's job. So that can create some internal conflicts as services are evaluated. The number one issue for a lot of people becomes the reliability of that service. So if I move this to a managed service, am I going to get the same level of reliability back to me? Am I going to have difficulty making changes? Am I going to have difficulty making ensuring that the system stays up? So that creates some, internal conflicts within the organization. The security is actually one of the biggest concerns that we all have in here. And when I think of security around your data, we kind of the acronym is CIA. So confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So who can see the data, right? Especially when you have a managed service provider, who's allowed to see it. We carry a lot of confidential customer information that would be damaging to the reputation of the company, to the reputation of our customers, should it be shown to other people. The second is integrity. How do we ensure that the data hasn't been tampered with, changed along the way, right? And then availability. So, you see in a number of instances where there's been a ransomware attack, it's the availability of the data. Like I have it, but I can't use it. I can't get to it. And especially in financial services, the shelf life of data is relatively short. So if you don't have it when you need it, it becomes a real problem. So how does the vendor who is delivering this service ensure all of these things? We always want the fewest people to have access to our confidential information. Who are those people? Where do they live? What rules and structure are on top of those people who happen to see the data because it's part of their day-to-day job that protects the use of that data? So if you think of one of the if you think of insider trading and trading on material non-public information, if there happens to be that type of information that's in the product, well, that becomes a real concern. And a lot of the services that you're outsourcing kind of naturally carry some, or potentially can carry some of that data with it. So Bobby?
Yeah, so I think a key aspect that touched upon by you is internally, because multiple departments are working with the managed service provider. So there is a little bit of a challenge in terms of alignment as to what is the expectation versus what is the deliverable. In a typical scenario, what happens is that there will be one function who will be managing the technology partner, but there will be other functions also, or other countries or business units who will be taking the services. Now, at a contracting stage, there would be 15 things or 20 things listed. But as people move on, new teams come up, generally people don't really understand what are the 10 deliverables by the tech partner, especially when the contracts run for couple of years, like in our case, it's 7 years, 6 years, such a scenario. So what happens is that, let's say if there are 50 deliverables, I'm just taking an arbitrary figure. When it trickles down, the business unit or the different functions would not even know that there is 50 or there is 25 or there is 100. And obviously, people also keep on changing. So one major aspect is the alignment is an issue, and how we've kind of tackled it down is that we've kind of listed down all the deliverables that a managed service provider is to provide on a tracker, and that tracker we maintain on a monthly, quarterly basis as to what the deliverable, what we have, they have agreed, and what they are offering, and what is the delta or what is the decline, and then we keep on tracking it. And this document then passes on whoever takes over the role or whichever function is asking. And obviously that rolls up into an automated dashboard also that we've created. So fundamentally, what I wanted to talk about is that there is a lot of misalignment and where multiple teams are involved. The other part is obviously when technology is taken care by an outsourced vendor, there are challenges where they have access to data as well. To an extent, the best is we have internal controls around whenever they access data, or first of all, to manage the infra, they don't need to access data. So that is period, right? So fundamental role does not require them to access data. But if there is a requirement, there are checks and balances, controls, triggers that are built in within the system that helps us closely guard consumer data. So there's no issue at all.
Yeah, just one point on that. And as I was working as a service provider, we had customers who would request the list of individuals that had access to their data or had accessed their data over a period of time. So putting, as Bobby stated, putting in those controls. So not only do you know your employees who have access to the data, but the employees at your service provider who also have accessed the data over that period of time is actually kind of an important control point.
For sure. Thank you both. We've kind of touched on this briefly already, but when an organization is seeking out managed services, what are their key pricing and services structure requirements? Bobby, I know you've mentioned it already a bit, but it'd be good to hear your thoughts.
So this is a very interesting aspect, and I think this has evolved over a period of time. The basic premise is obviously when we do all of this for better cost. So fundamentally, there are a couple of models that exist here. One is a per user. So there could be a number of users based in an organization. the service provider could charge per user. They could fix upon a cost basis, whatever the number of people who are working on from their side. Then they work out with a per user cost. The other model is the per device cost. So it could be on the number of devices. For example, it's not only about laptops, it's about servers, it's about so many devices, printers, all the infra, so there could be number of devices also. This model delivers a better predictability because they can correlate with the pricing and the devices that you manage, right? The third is that it could be a bundled way where it's a tiered bundle where they have a set feature in terms of pricing where they say that these are the combination of services that we will provide, and for these services this is the cost that you will have to pay, right? So that's the other one. The other interesting aspect is that is now quite prevalent is the value-based proposition. So value-based pricing, it delivers us the managed service provider to provide a certain value or objective based on the business objectives of the organization. So right, so and there could be a flat fee out of it. So I typically remember one of the key SLAs that we run is the transformation initiatives and the savings, the cost savings that you're able to derive by doing these digital transformations or moving these things onto cloud. So so there could be a pricing around that. The other aspect is also around monitoring. If there's a vendor who typically has capabilities around monitoring and the company only organization who wants monitoring, there could be a charging around monitoring for hourly or daily, and there could be some alerting services for the monitoring. The monitoring could be on the in-network, infra, it could be on anything around the IT estate, and this could be taken up. And the last one is the a la carte model that they and typically that is also one of the models that is quite coming up these days, where organization wants to retain some of their best capabilities to better manage the risk. For example, network management, right? Network. So it's so critical that if network goes down, everything goes down. So they pick and choose, hire the best of people to manage that portion in-house and outsource the other to the managed service provider. So it's a hybrid kind of a model. 3 or 4 services exist in-house, 3 or 4 services are given out, and there's a charge basis that. So, that's broadly what I can think of. Anything minor at your end, feel free to add.
Sure. I think first and foremost that it needs to be cheaper than the kind of the do-it-yourself model. There tends to be a preference in the medium to large size organizations to bring it in and source it. I think, as Bobby stated, the kind of unitized pricing is really key. So typically when you do it yourself, it's an allocation. You have a big chunk of cost. You have 1,000 users. Every user gets 1/1000th of the allocation. When users, when the users go up or the users go down, usually the costs don't change. So you can reduce your demand. And then your unit costs go up, so your actual bill doesn't really change a lot of times when it's in-house. And that's one of the benefits you get with a lot of the managed services is you can go to pure unitized costs. Because different business lines have different demands in a company. Somebody's growing, getting bigger, they need more services. We can easily deliver those new services to them. So how quickly the amount of service can change, I think, is another part of your service structure. So how quickly can I flex up and I flex down? We had customers who have seasonality, right? So they need a lot of people in a certain period of time and a lot fewer people less the time. So how quickly can you flex up and flex down to meet the demands? And then all of the service level agreements. So are you delivering the service that I need when I need it at the price? So when there's outages or not lack of availability of the service, those quickly overtake whatever cost savings have been delivered to the business.
Just adding on to a point from Minor is also to assess a similar competition. player on how they are operating. For example, it could be for us, it could be a competitor in the life insurance space. How are they managing a similar model? What are the kind of pricing and what are the strategies that they've adopted as well? And then accordingly be flexible about it.
Definitely agree.
Thanks.
For sure. And I think to finally wrap up, it would be good if we could probably touch on the regulatory aspect of all of this. So, what sorts of regulatory challenges are firms experiencing while they try and scope out and implement managed services? What's top of mind here? Mine would be great to hear your thoughts on this.
Sure. So I think first, most global regulators will tell you that you are responsible for your vendor. So if you've outsourced it, that's wonderful. That's great. You're still responsible, for the delivery of that service. So being really clear about your how that flows through the organization, because especially with large global organizations, oftentimes one entity will have a relationship with another entity, which will have a relationship with a third entity, which will then have the relationship with the vendor. So how you trace that all the way through, and it is highly dependent. So there's a lot of legal and contractual work that needs to be set up internally that you can then present over to the regulators. So tracing back, so the ultimate vendor that's delivering the service through all of the intercompany agreements that eventually gets to the regulated entity in the jurisdiction that is being regulated. And regulators all regulate in their local language. So making sure that you can then translate all those and directly address what the regulator has asked you to do in terms of providing them the information about, where is the data living, who is seeing the data, what happens when there is an incident. Oftentimes, a lot of these are related to cyber, and should there be a data breach in one jurisdiction, how does that then translate through to the other jurisdiction? So it's all this, traceability of subcontractors or vendors or outsourcing arrangements, all the way back to the ultimate entity that is going to the regulators are passing judgment. Did you follow our rules? And if you didn't follow our rules, what's the penalty?
Right, that's a good one. Thanks, Minor. One of the key aspects also, I think, is and this is something that I do daily for my bread and butter. Third-party risk is now a key focus around all regulators globally. Now, there is tremendous focus around third-party risk management and specifically around outsourcing. So there are guidelines around it. So what I have seen is that regulator at the end of the day is clear about the fact that is your consumer protected? Is your customer protected when you're outsourcing this? And what part of your business you're outsourcing? So one of the key aspects is we understand what is a regulatory requirement and we try to work on it from day one. For example, subcontracting is one of the major risks. Now, within subcontracting, in a typical large outsourcing arrangement of a managed third party, there could be subcontracting up to 200, 300 subcontractors. How do we do due diligence on 300 subcontractors? We'll do only on one, right? So that is one major challenge. And how it is to be looked at is that we kind of classify which of them could be a major risk, what is the service provided, what is the kind of data that is involved, what are the kind of costs that is involved, what is the kind of, if there is a disruption, which one will affect the customer, what will be the criticality, and basically classify them accordingly. So the base premise is that we understand that these are the regulatory regime and we act on it from day one. We put controls, checks and balances from day one in a way where you're not doing it manually, but there are automated controls around it where you kind of do it on an ongoing basis. Because at the moment, these things are still evolving. but there could be absolutely new regime that comes up around third-party outsourcing, whether we say that this part of business you just cannot outsource. You never know. And then what do we do? If it is given to you, you really have to have a backup plan, whether you could do it in-house or not. So for every organization who's managing or who's doing a managed service provider, they really should have a very robust backup plan in place to ensure that the business is up and running and there is no issue. So I just wanted to add on that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think third-party risk is a key challenge here. All right, we can wrap up. Does anyone have any closing remarks before we finish the session for today?
I didn't realize we kind of done. It was so good. But anyways, I think it's a topic close to our hearts, and I think we do it daily, so there's much to speak about it. But it was all good. Thank you for the opportunity. It was great meeting you, Maryam, Minor, Gina, and this is a great opportunity to share our views on this subject.
Yes, there's a lot of passion here with with this. So thanks a lot for having us speak about it.
Brilliant, thank you. And I think a lot of people are interested in getting clarity around what exactly managed services is and how it's going to evolve. So thank you so much.